Hi, and everybody, welcome back to the Full Mount instant live reaction at the time of this recording of the news that has broke today in the mixed martial arts world about UFC 249. As everyone knows, beginning in December 2019, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, known as the novel coronavirus, began in Wuhan, China. It expanded out to the rest of the world, and it caused the COVID-19 infection as a result of the novel coronavirus. It's infected almost all over the world. There's approximately 1.5 million cases in the world. In the United States, where I'm recording from, it's just shy of 400,000 as of today. And there's approximately 15 to 16,000 deaths reported, though that's likely underreported due to people dying at home and there not being an adequate enough basis for testing. That being said, as part of the social distancing and the CDC recommendations and guidelines, a lot of folks in a lot of states now have healthy at home orders, shelter-in-place orders, orders that cancel non-essential businesses, and public large crowd gatherings. As you can imagine, folks, this obviously impacted the Ultimate Fighting Championship as they, beginning after UFC Brasilia, were forced to cancel or postpone indefinitely all of their events. Now, indefinitely does not mean that they're canceled forever. They're not going to go back. They canceled the March 21st, 15th. They canceled three different ones, and that's the three goggles that UK fans do. That there are three different ones that were canceled: UFC Columbus and two related to that. But they said, Dana White said, UFC 249 will go on as planned. At first, it was going to be at the UFC Apex, the place that they constructed last year, where they put on Dana White's Contender Series, as you saw last year on ESPN. And then the Nevada Athletic Commission canceled all events through March 25th, and indefinitely until they met again. They've not yet been able to meet again, so UFC Apex is out of the picture. Most states won't host it, so the UFC has went and struggled and says, we need to get a place to get it in fight, so we can put these folks on a card, so we can be the first of the major professional sports organizations to get back up and running. And so what they decided to do is they found a place that they wouldn't tell anybody about, not even the fighters, the managers, the cornermen. They finally announced this week, the week of April 5th or whatever the hell it is, April 6th, that they've got a place lined up and that they've got a new main event after Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Eagle, pulled out because he got stuck in Russia after moving out of California to the UAE and then to Russia. And they have also banned flights out of the country for the most part to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So you're like, holy crap, right? How are they going to get Khabib? Well, they didn't get Khabib. So they still got Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is an American fighter in California. And you got to say, well, if he's going to be your main event, and you still got a main event, you got to get him a good dance partner, because it takes two to tango, my friend. If you want people to buy a pay-per-view, you better give them a darn good fight to do it, especially when 16-plus million people have filed for unemployment in the past 3 weeks. So at this point, another top 5 fighter in the lightweight division of the Ultimate Fighting Championship decided to step up. And this man is what we call a crazy mother fudger. Saying fudger so I don't get demonetized, despite that I won't make a darn dime from this dang video. Believe it. It's the man, Justin Gaethje, former All-American wrestler who is 4-2 in the UFC with victories over Edson Barbosa, James Vick, and Donald Cerrone in his last 3 fights, in addition to a top 5 victory over former, at the time, top 5 lightweight Michael Johnson in his UFC debut. He's been knocked out in the 3rd and 4th round in 2 of his fights against former UFC competitor Eddie Alvarez and former interim champ and most recent title challenger, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Shout outs to Saved by the Bell and Louisiana, since that's where DP is. Anyways, so Justin Gaethje decides, I'm all in it. I usually do not go for fights. Just give me an interim title, and the fact that I can save this sport, paraphrasing a bit on that there and imputing certain motivations to him. He says, I'm down, I'm game, give me the contract, send location at some point to me. And he signs, and earlier this week, as in about yesterday or the day before, Dana White says, we got a book, main event, title fight, Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson for the interim lightweight championship. The winner most likely to get Khabib Nurmagomedov for the true undisputed lightweight championship of the world. Next. And so this is, according to Dana White, in an interview with Brett Okamoto on ESPN. So, we get that, and then Francis Ngannou and Jairzinho Rozenstruik are on the card. Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade is on the card. And a whole bunch of other people added to the card as well. It's just as Uriah Hall versus Jacare Souza, or Ronaldo Jacare Souza. Jacare, I think, is Brazilian or Portuguese for Gator. Brazilians speak Portuguese, FYI. So, those and a whole bunch of other fights, including Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar, have been put on this card. And then earlier today, just within the last hour or two, the senior senator from the state of California, Dianne Feinstein, issues a statement. Y'all can't be doing this, UFC. Wouldn't be prudent. Paraphrasing, of course. She's against it. And in the last days, the leaking out of the location of the fight for UFC occurred at a sovereign land of the Taichi tribe in California. Because it's sovereign land, state shelter-in-place orders don't necessarily apply. That's the legal basis on how the UFC would be able to put on the fight on that sovereign land. Now, a couple things on that. One, the United States treatment of Native Americans in our past has been awful and despicable, and still is to this day. Let's be real, folks. And what counts as sovereignty for Native American recognized tribes is not necessarily what you and I would think is sovereign in the way that a foreign country is sovereign. It can be nicely be called ethnocentric racist paternalism. That's what it is. But anyways, they're a sovereign nation, and they have the right to do whatever they want. So if this is what they chose to do, they have the right, and we shouldn't have such a paternalistic attitude to it. But that being said, a lot of white people especially treat people that way. And so Dana White comes out today, just within the last hour or so, and says the power-ups that be through ESPN all the way up through Disney, which might mean the CEO of Disney or someone up that level, asked them not to put on the fight and to postpone the rest of their events indefinitely. So he does an interview with Brad Okamoto of ESPN. He never does one with Hawana because I still don't think he likes him. And says UFC 249 is canceled and has been postponed indefinitely. But he did say that the sovereign nation of the Taichi Reservation, I think it is, you're going to forgive me on that, not knowing the sovereign tribe's name, is canceled. But he says that they're going to get a big fight when they come back. So where do things stand now? UFC 249 is off, and it's not going to be on anytime soon. The rest of UFC events are postponed indefinitely. However, the private island that nobody has and nobody knows about except Dana White, where they're building all the infrastructure, their own UFC Apex, essentially, plus whatever else it is that they need so fighters can train there. It's going to be built, and he says they'll put on fights there. Now, when the bleep that's going to be, nobody knows. As of right now, my guess is with the statements of Dana White in that conference is you're going to have to get ESPN and Disney, the family company, on board before they're hosting anything. So my guess is you've also seen in other sports that the NBA and MLB are talking about ways in which they can get people back in May. That would be the earliest, perhaps, that the UFC can restart stuff is in the middle of May. The governor of Connecticut said that the earliest business may go back was either, according to the tweet that I saw, either May 20th or May 30th for certain businesses to be allowed to get up. So my guess is you're not going to see anything from the UFC until ESPN is on board and until Disney's on board, and that's not likely to be until May. Now, contractually, UFC, with their contract with ESPN, get the same amount of money as long as they put on the minimum required number of fights. They got about 40 to 42 that they put on a year. They put on X number this year. So I'll guarantee you this, hook, line, and sinker. Write this down. And remember to like and subscribe and hit that little bell for the ding notifications. That UFC is going to put on every damn contractually required fight later this year. And there will probably be weeks where you have more than one fight a week. Reason being is because they're going to have approximately a break of probably 12 weeks. So there are not going to be any built-in off weeks as before. And so in order to have that, so you can have a season, so to speak, my guess is you're going to see some things like you do during International Fight Week, where in past with International Fight Week, you've had the major Saturday pay-per-view, a Friday tough finale, and sometimes even a Thursday tough finale with a regular Friday night fight. I think you're going to see that a few times this year in connection with International Fight Week and other major fights such as the major December pay-per-view. My guess is that you're going to possibly see a not so much an International Fight Week, but my prediction is you're going to see multiple weeks where you're going to have 3 fights a week. How about that? Right here, folks. But what does this mean for those of us who are in the full mount land and who want to believe that things can move forward is we're going to have to wait some more weeks, people. That's just the case. We have to wait more weeks. We're going to have to wait more time because the safety of the fighters, the participants, the crowd is more paramount at this time than making money. And the one thing that government's supposed to do is to protect us from the worst instinct in nature of ourselves when it comes to stuff that affects everybody. And the health and safety of our citizens is paramount to what the police powers of the government are supposed to design to do and protect. And so that's why we're not having any fights this weekend, next weekend, weekend after that, or the weekend after that. Likely nothing till the end of May based upon my personal reading of the situation. So, folks, I say unto you, keep your thoughts and prayers for all of those who've been lost to the COVID-19 infection and to the novel coronavirus. And thoughts and prayers to all of those who've lost their jobs during this time. And thoughts and prayers to everybody that's been effective. I'm Brandon Music with the Full Mount MMA Podcast, signing off. Remember to like and subscribe and ding that bell for notifications.